Hey everybody, it's Dave with Android Police, and this is the Galaxy S6, which you probably already know a lot about. It's possible you even know more about it than me as far as the paper specifications go, but we're here with the phone at MWC in Barcelona, and obviously I'm holding the regular version here, not the Edge version. The Edge version, as you can see, you've got a couple of those sitting here as well. As far as the actual specifications of the phone, obviously the Edge version really isn't that much difference. The battery's a bit smaller. The phone's a tiny bit thicker, I think, as well. But otherwise, same basic phone. You get the Edge software, but right now that's pretty limited number of purposes we can see for that. So as far as the S6 basic overview goes, the big change for Samsung is obviously in design. And this phone really does feel very premium. Samsung has gone out of its way to make a phone that feels like, a $600 or $700 phone should feel. And it feels nice without feeling necessarily overly industrial or cold or too sharp or anything. It feels natural. I've got to say, they did a good job blending the Samsung design language, if you like it or not, with a much more premium design. The materials feel really nice. I mean, you do kind of have with the bezel on the edges, or the beveling on the edges here, kind of an iPhone-y look, especially on the bottom. But what are you gonna do, I guess? The screen has been bumped up to a 2K Super AMOLED display. There's supposedly a little bit better contrast than you get on the Note 4 Super AMOLED 2K, but otherwise it's a very similar screen. It still gets very bright, it still gets very dark. It's still, I think, probably going to be the benchmark screen in smartphones. The phone itself, as far as performance and stuff goes, I mean, just sitting here, this is pre-release software, so we always have to asterisk with that. But the phone seems to run relatively quickly. This flipboard briefing thing seems to confuse it pretty easily. I can usually get the launcher to reflow, but if you turn that off, I'm going to imagine it's going to run faster. But as far as actually getting in things like, settings or something, I think it is noticeably quicker doing a lot of this stuff. It's moving pretty fast. So, as you can see, just running through this stuff, it's moving quite quickly. You've got a new theme engine here, which I'm not going to talk too much about, but there's a theme engine. You can download themes. Like I said, there's a Qualcomm, or excuse me, a Samsung Exynos processor in here. We're hearing that maybe that means still probably a Qualcomm modem for mobile data connectivity. We haven't heard that from Samsung, but I think that's going to be the case everywhere but Korea. But you still do have an Exynos chip on that 14 nanometer process, making the phone more battery efficient and boosting performance too. If you've seen benchmarks for the new Exynos, you can tell it's a monster. It is a really fast chip. The Mali GPU, that's always been a toss-up with the ARM reference designs. It's hard to say how that'll perform versus Qualcomm's new solutions, but I'm going to guess it's going to still be pretty competitive. As far as everything else on the phone goes, the camera has been upgraded a bit. You've got a much bigger aperture on the lens now, f1.9, so it's brighter. You get obviously then better low light performance. The camera boot up time for the app is very fast. I don't know if Samsung's under a second claim is quite true if you're coming from a cold start, but it's pretty close to that. And it's definitely quicker than the Note 4 I've been having to use for the show. So that's definitely an improvement. Overall, I mean, there's a lot to like here. Like I said, if you don't like Samsung's design language, well, that's a personal opinion. And the lack of a removable battery and an SD card slot is going to upset some people. I personally don't see them as major drawbacks these days. The phone's charged so fast with quick charging, and you're looking at 32 gigabytes of storage standard. And that's more than enough for most people. Granted, there are going to be cases where that isn't. As far as the storage options in America go, nobody's saying. So in years past, if you watch the Galaxy phone releases, America typically gets the least amount of storage humanly possible, and generally doesn't even offer the other storage options. So we'll see if we get the 64 or 128 editions. I think we might get 64 on a couple carriers. I doubt if we'll get 128. And as far as the colors go, Samsung's showing 5 here. We don't know if there'll be more specific to the American carriers, but you've got the blue, you've got the gold, you've got the blackish kind of blue, the white, and the green. I think they're all actually really nice colors for the most part. The gold's a little ostentatious, but some people may just like that it's quite so brilliant, I guess. It's very shiny. Really shiny. It's probably blinding the camera as I do this. But it's certainly, nothing else looks like that. That's definitely true. Overall, it seems like Samsung's got a pretty likable phone here. I think the Galaxy S6 is going to be a return to form in terms of dominance for Samsung. Samsung really did rule the industry with the Galaxy S and S2. S3 was pretty good, but from there, things started to stagnate a little bit. And I think that S6 is the refresh that Samsung had to make. And I think everyone should applaud them for doing it. It's a very nice phone from a material standpoint. It's very nice to hold, and I look forward to reviewing it. And so yeah, that is, and I'm using, oh wait, I'll talk about the fingerprint thing here real quick. So the new fingerprint sensor is actually the right kind. So you can see phone unlocks, or the phone opens, and I just put my thumb there and it unlocks. So it's just like Touch ID. So you just put your finger on the home button and it just works. So you can register multiple fingers and do all that kind of stuff. It doesn't work when the screen's off though, so it doesn't appear that anybody but Huawei's figured out how to do that yet. So maybe on the next phone. But still, having that touch fingerprint sensor is really nice. We can't do anything with Samsung Pay. The app doesn't exist yet, I don't believe. It's not on the phones. So we'll see that later this summer, apparently. And I assume that's going to be available on the Galaxy Apps Store, or maybe on Google Play too. We'll see. Or it might have to be built in firmware. I don't know. But yeah, that is a quick look at the Galaxy S6, which will be coming out in America probably in April.